There's a lot of rumors that the whole trade deal and Carney leaving the trade war or starting the trade war with Trump is because of the French language or multiple other excuses that we are continuously seeing, but it might actually be a lot deeper than that. So let's actually get into Canada's downfall.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
And let's start with this from Michael Lucci saying, quote, "This sounds a whole lot like Mark Carney wants to prioritize his, quote, strategic partnership with a really bad Chinese Communist Party over the USA, and that's been the story all along."
Well, and these series of articles we're going to have really dig deep into the relationship Canada is building with China behind the scenes that they thought the Americans were dumb to what was going on behind the scenes, how they were smuggling billions of dollars of goods into the U.S. The Americans are wise to this, and they're saying no more.
The U.S. introduced in the last hours, efforts to restrict our ability to have other trade deals. You heard me say a moment ago what we've accomplished in the last year, 20 new deals, economic and security partnership. The prospect of doubling our market access because we believe in free trade. We're the partner of choice in many respects for countries around the world, and the Americans wanted to restrict that. They had language that they wanted to restrict. Unacceptable. The U.S. introduced a...
Hold on. He says unacceptable. This is already actually within the USMCA contract. We're going to show that in a little bit. But number two, the one country America has a problem with is China. It's their number one competitor. In order for Mexico to get into official negotiations, it had to start kicking out a lot of Chinese manufacturing. It had to make concessions. It's not to say everybody that the United States has a problem with you can't trade with, because that's not the case. Mexico is currently closing a major trade deal with Brazil, which is a key figure within the BRICS organization, but it's not China. And usually where Mexico would go for their oil is Houston and the United States, but they're deciding to go with Brazil. And the Americans aren't putting up a big fuss with it because the Mexicans have showed good faith by starting to get rid of Chinese manufacturing in the country. The roadmap is there for Canada. All they have to do is look at Mexico.
Well, meanwhile, Carney was going over to China and actually reinforcing and redoing all the trade deals with China as the U.S. was saying, hey, come to the table. We actually have to talk. And Canada was saying, no, we won't. But CBC Watch also says Mike Froman, former U.S. trade representative on CNN yesterday afternoon, saying, I think the issue is that the Trump administration is pressing Canada as well as other countries to adopt a common approach vis-a-vis China.
Yeah, and it's obvious they're making a common approach against China. You can look at anybody in the Shield of the Americas, Mexico being a perfect example.
And Argentina, too, for example.
Both parties. But issues like the Canadian dairy system has been a bone of contention between the U.S. and Canada for decades. And I imagine it continues to be one today. I think the new issue is that the Trump administration is pressing Canada as well as other countries to adopt a common approach vis-a-vis China, whether it's a common external tariff or export controls or ensuring that Chinese products, inputs, don't get inserted into products in Canada that will then be imported into the United States. And that's a new set of trade issues, and Prime Minister Carney has noted that goes against their sovereign right to establish relationships with other countries. So that's going to be an issue of contention that the administration is going to continue to have dialogue.
And again, this is the lie the Canadian media keeps putting out, whether it's through interviews or from their own mouth. This was already in the USMCA. It was already agreed to. They're acting like this is something new. Absolutely, it's not. And when your main trading partner has a problem like they do with China, you better get on board or you're going to find some economic hurt in the future of Canada.
And so the French language thing and it's the Netflix thing or the this and the that, I mean, those might have been sticking points, but the main thing probably is the weird and closer relationship that Canada continues to try to build with China and the EU.
Well, I think it's China is one of their big masters, as well as they want federalization. So they're going to they want to have some kind of benefit while they decouple from the United States, or at least try. And that benefit is economic collapse, but at least the federal government will get federalization so they can adopt a Chinese communist model, because federalization is socialism and the road to communism.
Basically, but also from RMC86 as quote, to everyone indicating that the U.S. has no right to tell Canada who they can make a trade deal with. You're wrong. Article 32.10 of the USMCA stipulates agreements with non-market countries cannot be made without strict advance notification and review. One guess which country is non-market that Carney made a secret strategic partnership agreement with. So
Well-
it's not about sovereignty, as Carney continues to say, but it's also about following the trade deal you're already in, and you continuously say that you want to stay in, but apparently you don't.
Well, and again, they don't have a problem with you trading with other countries. It's only China. Typically, you would think it would be Brazil as well, but the Mexicans are now dealing with Brazil, and the Americans have absolutely no problem with it. Especially, you think they would have a problem because typically a lot of that business went to the United States, and Mexico is trying to diversify a little bit, and America's not putting up a fuss right now.
But also, Mexico did impose more tariffs because Mexico had a huge problem, for example, with dumping of Chinese electric vehicles. And yet they did go ahead and impose tariffs as soon as they did want to start the more serious trade negotiations with the US. After all the talk and the blabber from Claudia Sheinbaum, they actually, and sovereignty, her saying sovereignty, they actually did go ahead and do the things that they needed to do to actually start enter into official trade negotiations.
Well, Trump actually did Mexico a favor by saying, get rid of the Chinese manufacturing. It was something that was not politically tenable for the president to do here until the pressure came from Trump. And then she had the excuse to do it. And why wasn't it a good thing? Because 90% of the products were being made and assembled in China, shipped over here, and just the finishing touches were being put on here. Then they were slapping a made in Mexico stamp and shipping it over the border. It wasn't end-to-end manufacturing. Now what we're seeing is American as well as Mexican manufacturing end-to-end, meaning a lot more work for Mexican workers.
And also this coming from the White House themselves. Wealth Move says, quote, Canada was accused of allowing Chinese steel and aluminum to enter through Canada and reach the U.S. market in ways Washington viewed as tariff circumvention. When the U.S. pushed for tougher transshipment rules, Ottawa reportedly resisted. It was a major issue, a major reason the deal collapsed. Then this isn't just a tariff dispute. It's about whether Canada would align with the U.S. or China, and Washington clearly does not want the Chinese trade workaround sitting on its northern border.
Well, also, this is a ton of money behind the scenes. People don't realize they're dumping massive amounts of steel and other products within Canada, and then they're shipping them across the border. And they think America is not wise to how much illegal importation of a lot of these goods are happening through Canada. It is the #1 violator of any country in the world, that being Canada.
And again, they've continuously done studies like this, and this was recently published as well, interestingly, right before Canada finally decided to sit at the table for then to say, no, we actually walk away. This might also be the reason DMAX says, quote, the people doing the most celebrating this weekend about the Canada-US trade deal falling apart are on other countries.
Well, and this is so freaking true. And that's Ursula von der Leyen kind of pictured there, the head of the EU, and Xi Jinping. And the thing is here, Canada doesn't have any leverage, but they do have two puppet masters to say, the little leverage you have, you're going to use now before the midterms. We don't care if it's your economic collapse. Figure it out. Mark Carney's all too happy to do it.
It says, who's our good little leader of the middle powers? I don't even think they're the middle powers. It's the middling powers, at least Europe and Canada.
Yeah,
actually.
China would be one of the main powers.
Which is why we don't want them. I mean, the U.S. doesn't want them just freely entering through the northern door, I would say. I was going to say back door, but same thing. And lastly, South Writer Gal says, quote, oh, Canada. China has been stealing more than $60 billion in tariff revenue by laundering its exports through other countries. The biggest offender is Canada, and Mark Carney walked away from the trade talks to avoid upsetting the CCP by ending the scam, because he's very proud about all the deals and the diversification he has done lately, mostly with China.
Well, and the reason China's not willing to diversify more openly, because they have all these behind the scenes deals of $60 billion where they can dump things into the United States. When it went from soybeans to electric EVs, these are pity pat deals. All the big deals are the black market deals that Canada has with China right now. And it dramatically hurts the United States, especially when the United States is trying to reshore and bring back manufacturing, which they're doing successfully right now.
And Muzak said, Canada left China's steel backdoor wide open. The U.S. requires melt and pour in North America, so Chinese steel can now get light processing in Canada and enter as North American content. Mexico accepted the rule and raised tariffs on Chinese steel and auto parts. And Mark Carney walked away from the U.S. deal.
Yeah, and this is a cheap pig steel that is not good for a lot of products. And this is why products today aren't manufactured as good as they used to, because the quality of the steel, also the quality of lumber and things like that.
Exactly. So the actual reasoning as to why Canada walked away, Canada hasn't been transparent. Mexico has been trying to, every time they go into trade negotiations right after, they post something and they actually inform the public. Ironically enough, Mexico is being the transparent country in this case. But with the US saying one thing and Carney saying another one, well, the deeper truth might be just sitting across the world with more interests for Canada, but not with the US. Before we continue, please don't forget to subscribe. It really does help us out. And like the video as well. Thank you so much.